Hey, what's up? It's your boy Bobby Sapphire, and we're back from Gen Con. We are going to do a whole meta breakdown of Gen Con. And if this is your first time watching this or listening to this, this is how we do our podcast. It's a video with like slides and all the decks and lists and stuff. So if you're checking this out for the first time, maybe you want to check out our podcast. With me, as always, on these breakdowns is my boy Justin, member of the KTOD. Finalizer mat in hand. You have your finalizer mat in hand?
It's to the side. I'm panicking. You didn't tell me. Oh no.
I meant to tell you.
What happens at Gen Con doesn't stay at Gen Con?
All right. Well, thank God my little bro KTOD Maddie has his finalizer mat and his armorer mat on display. I don't have mine either. I was hoping that you guys had them.
Yeah, so I got really lucky that when I went to unpack, I just dumped everything on the floor, like right next to me right here. So when we're getting set up for the podcast, I just quickly put that. So usually I have my books up there. People can see what I've read or what I'm reading. But today it's all about the pod for Gen Con and the playmats, baby.
Sick. And we've also got Stevie from the Beach House. Guns out. What's up, baby?
What up, baby? The only matless player of the team from the weekend.
Kinda. You are the only person on the team who played on a finalizer mat all weekend. So
that is true.
That is pretty hot. Steve played on Reflex's mat.
Reflex for the props on that one.
And you also got the sick content creator mat too. So not exactly.
Yeah, I did. Oh no. I'm not complaining. Don't get me wrong. More just stressing that like 7 out of 8 members of the team did get a finalizer mat. So I think that's proof is in the pudding.
Yeah, Reflex got one for you. Plus, you never played Constructed, and you still had a win in. So with mono Blu-ray.
Yeah, and the dude that beat me in the winning in still didn't even get it. So I feel a little bit better about myself.
And then the other thing, I actually don't have a slide for this, but we should do this at the top. Please stay tuned to our next podcast episode because we are going to be giving away one of the content creator swag bags with the armorer mat in it. So you do have the mat right there. Yeah, full bag.
I have the
bag. 6 sets of sleeves.
Should I do it now? Should I show all the content?
Yeah, show it now.
Here's the content creator bag. It's got a cool Star Wars Unlimited logo, unlimited possibilities. You've got these soft pods, Mando.
One Mando deck box.
Yeah, the deck boxes are good.
6 packs of sleeves, insane. One of every set of sleeves.
And then this is the mat. I believe there's only 80 in existence, and I don't think they're making more. You can see it on Maddie's, but this is the one that you're actually going to receive. I'm just going to leave it in the content creator box that was very graciously given to us. So, next podcast is going to be an exciting one. It's sort of like a lottery.
Yeah, we had 1,000 people sign up for the last giveaway we did, and I've got to change how we did it. So I need a couple weeks to figure that out. So we'll be giving that away next week. We'll announce how we're going to do that. All right, so without further ado, let's talk about all things Gen Con. We had 3 128-person events. Those are the ones we're primarily going to talk about because we are a competitive podcast, and that's sort of our purview. What I did was I put the standings of everyone who went 5-2 or better, and then identified how many of us were K2D subs or on the K2D team. These were the Thursday standings when Yellow Han took first as the only 7-0, Troy Yamaguchi. And then, as you can see, 2 members of the K2D team won mats in the top 16. I went 3-3 that day, not my best showing. And then we had 4 other people in the Discord win mats, and then 3 others on top of that finish 5-2 or better.
Heck yeah, top 16 got the finalizer match. Definitely a great showing. Seen Tata with the Kira list that we'll talk a little bit about later. Did really well.
Yeah, Cox played the Kira list
Reflex too. Yeah, they have two Kiras. The 2 Kira boys got mats that day. Reflex had to sweat it out in 16th.
That exact Kira list crushed it.
Yeah,
I think all in all it went 5-2, 5-2. That's 10-4. Then a 7-0. That's 17-4.
But then Tata also 0-2'd on
Tata with the 0-2.
17-6.
Yeah,
still pretty
really good,
stellar record.
Oh yeah, the deck's great.
Super good list.
You guys weren't at the con this day.
Yep.
It was, I don't know. It felt like the other days. It didn't feel like anything crazy. But I had to play Tata in the second round, and I thought that was like I was playing Boba Yellow that day, and I felt like that was a pretty rough matchup for me. So I wasn't surprised to lose that match. But we saw, I guess the number one thing to take away from me is how many Sabines
That was the
Sabine
takeaway in
day.
the first one. It was like Sabine, and then people talked about these sort of like control-y lists, and it wasn't so much boba. It was like, hey, there's not much boba. That was our takeaway from day one. It's like, hey, tons of Sabines, and people kind of talked about the Han deck and talked about a few other decks, but then the people that were actually at the tournament were like, wait, don't get fooled. Like, it's Sabine everywhere. Top tables is a ton of Sabine, because when you see like something like Akira or something like a Krennic or a Han, you're kind of like, hey, like that's unique. And sometimes you forget about a little bit about the sort of less exciting decks that are still super strong. So this was definitely like a ton of Sabine on this day.
Yeah, and that was especially frustrating for me as I played Boba Yellow because I thought there would be Sabine, and I played 0 Sabines. I played control lists all day, which was really brutal for Boba Yellow. But it was like Sabine lists everywhere except for us across from me at the table. And with 8 of the 16 mats being won by Sabine and several others in the 5 and 2 bracket, that was pretty frustrating to have the meta read, but just sort of get unlucky in the standings, and then not also.
Exactly.
I did get unlucky, but I still got to win my games, and I just wasn't able to do that.
That's the point I kind of try to make to people is like when you go to these events, like you got to really look at the whole season, because you're going to go to an event, you're going to pick the deck that you're going to pick the right deck, and you're just going to get the wrong matchups all day. Like there is some variance in that, and like you got to just trust your gut and you're in testing, and like you're not going to win them all.
Yeah, and even if you do make the right call and Sabine's like 25% of the meta, which is like insane, it'll probably never be 25% of the meta. Like you still can only expect to face it 1 or 2 times. And then if you just get a little on the unlucky side of variance there, it's still only one game. So
one thing there though, Matt, you are wrong about, you can win them all. When we get to the Friday standings, you'll see one of the teammates did win them all.
Fair enough.
There you go.
Before we get to that, let's take a look at the mono yellow Han. Now we had gotten some, I guess like not intel, but like it did well in Baltimore. And the guy who won Baltimore with yellow Han, he asked me on Thursday morning if I was swapping to this deck. Now I'm not poo-pooing the whole deck, but the version with like the main deck confiscates and stuff was a little not my speed. But it looks like, and actually we're going to talk about all the improvements that got made over the course of the weekend. So this is the deck that won Thursday.
And Troy did make changes that you talked about, and like he did well in the both event. Like Troy's a gamer, like he's a good player too.
Yeah, he's very good, and he also he won a second mat as well. We'll talk about his standings that day too. But obviously those confiscates came out.
I think this deck's really good. I mean, one thing I played a little bit with a little bit more aggressive version, and I'll tell you, like having like Smuggle's really a good mechanic. Like when you have one of the hardest things in this game is turn 1 with like resource decisions, and putting 2 cards down you're never going to see again. If you have 1 smuggle card, having to only do that with 1 card makes a world of difference. And like we saw it even with Akira with like having like just a few smuggle cards, like your hands that have them are just so like you feel like so in control. So like you look at like that the Falcon, that the Lando's prize, the smuggle Falcon, it's like, man, you get a hand, you put that down, it's there. It's like, imagine being able to like resource like Fett's fire spray, right? Like
right, you just have your end game bomb. Yeah. That's what I love about the Falcon.
There, and then and then tech obviously opens up a totally different avenue too, where like all your cards are then freed up, and you actually can like go a really really long game. Let's say against like a blue villain control, and they claim, and you have like 12 resources, and tech just comes out, and you just like play a bunch of things, and then you all of a sudden your hand's like 5 cards. And you're like the tempo attack deck, and they're the control deck, and you're out carding them by 3 or 4 cards. So that's my big appeal with this deck. And I also think just being able to like use Han's ability to play a really strong 3-drop on the first turn is great. Like we're not trying to necessarily race to like all big drops, right? Like you've got the 3 Hans, and then you've got the Falcons, which you're smuggling anyway. But we're not like our hand isn't clunked up with like having to just lean on leader Han's ability. So if that gets derailed, then all of a sudden our deck just completely falls apart. It's not really trying to do that.
Right. While the stock market might be having issues today, tech stocks are on the rise, baby. Go pick up your techs. Go pick up your Smuggle Millennium Falcon. I was even playing, and this is a quick tangent, but I was playing 30-point Kira, and I had some late games. I was like, man, I totally wish I had a tech.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had the same thought. I really wanted the tech, especially since I don't know if you guys played against this deck at all, but I played against it on Sunday, and the game, it was just like a slog. It took forever to finish. Like, I was able to close it out because the Kira endgame is so strong, but like it just took forever to get through everything. And part of that was Tech. I mean, every time Tech hit the table, I tried to Vader him immediately, so I didn't have to deal with his BS. But
Right.
It just makes the game infinite, and that's sort of like the reasoning behind George's Hondo deck too. It's just like everything has smuggle, so you never run out of gas.
Right.
Matt, did you know you're calling me right now? Oh, Matt froze. So apparently Maddie went on some tech rant, but we picked it up and it was pretty seamless. The only other thing I wanted to add is like I played Boba with Hot Shot Blasters, and the point that Justin made about the smuggle like being insane, it was just like every time that was in my opening hand or every time I drew one off the top and I knew that like I could keep my gas, made me feel so much better about what I was doing.
Yeah, I think Hot Shot Blaster. I put it in my top 10 list before the set dropped, and then I was for a little bit. I was like, oh, did I like whiff on that one? Like, is it actually not? I think I had it like 6 or 7. Is it actually not that powerful? But now I think I'd have it even higher. I think that card is absolute gas.
Dude.
Did you guys play against this deck at all?
No.
I did not.
No.
Just me. Okay.
I played against the Boba Yellow, and just the turn I thought I stabilized, he hot shot blasted for the win.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hot Shot Blaster's pretty dope. I was just gonna give a stock tip, but the Fed came in and cut my internet, so I'm not gonna do it again because I want to keep the pod rolling.
Was it the Fed or was it the moon? Did the moon
Dude.
like beam down the blocker?
The moon beamed down, yeah.
All right, so
My text.
here's the illusion Steve was making about who can win them all, and that is Wu at the top of the standings, going 7-0 with the ECL Kira deck that Tada and Reflex used to win a mat the previous day, and then of course also rounding out the top 16 on the team was Reflex, also won with Boba Yellow. I thought our Boba Yellow list was really good. We'll talk about it in a little bit. And then Justin and CJ also in the top 10 there, earning it with Green Sabine, the deck that they did the Town Hall on. So, like, this is pretty insane. I wanted to wait for this moment to talk to you about all the Green Sabine that got played this weekend. But you and CJ, if like people don't know because they're not in the Discord, CJ and Justin did a whole Town Hall meeting. They invited everyone in the Discord. We recorded it. Everyone could ask questions. They went through all their lines, all their changes, all their sideboard plans, all the options that people could take. But yeah, you talk about it. You did it.
Yeah, so we did the Town Hall. It was great. We collaborated on a lot of talking about the mirror and just like what that looks like, and then lo and behold, CJ and I were, I think, at table 2 or 3, right, or table 3, in the last round, and faced off against each other. He got me, so that's why he's got the 6th place finish, and I got the 10th. But in those games, it was funny because I don't think we finished any of them. It was like, yeah, you got it. Like on turn 2, it was like, yeah, you pressed the advantage. We know where this one goes.
You guys already know like what's going to happen based on the sequencing.
That's so wild.
It was wild. Like I had it was all 3 of the games were pretty much blowouts. So, and we just sort of identified that was pretty commonplace. Like we knew that was going to work. So, and that's a lot of collaboration between CJ and I, but also the Town Hall. Like we got really good info when we did that. So the Town Hall was a live event. I think it was last Monday at 10 or 9 o'clock. And we just talked about Sabine with the community, answered a bunch of questions, talked about lists, talked about some of the fringe cards, like, not really a fringe card anymore, but like Darksaber was a big one we talked about, timely intervention, and just like the curve and what should happen with like your drops and stuff like that. So really excited. I actually played, Mike would have loved my matchups. I played 3 Sabines on the day. I won 2 of them 2-0, and then the one with CJ was 2-1. Interesting thing, so great member of our community, Yakko, in the Town Hall brought up this really cool line of, in the mirror, if you have Battlefield Marine, Wing Leader, and Darksaber, you can actually put the Darksaber, Wing Leader, the Battlefield Marine, attack for 5, and then Darksaber, the Battlefield Marine, and attack for 9. And then what ends up happening is the turn 3, the Sabine turn in the mirror, like oftentimes like you're trying to get actions, you're trying to get your Sabine going, stuff like that. But by virtue of doing it that way, you can actually claim and then just swing, because it'll be 9, 9, and 5. And if you're on the draw, you can ping to get your 2 extra pings. And that exact same scenario happened in my second game in the first round on my Sabine mirror. I was actually sitting right next to Maddie. And I claimed, and the guy just looked, and he understood. but
you
it
claimed
kind of blew
before
his mind,
deploying
I
your
think.
Sabine is what you're
Right,
trying to
yep.
say. Yeah, so he swung
Yep.
for 9 and then claimed without even deploying his Sabine, knowing that the final 9 would finish him off. And
Right.
one of the
And
other
I waited till he used his resources, because it was post board. I was cognizant of like Fang Fighter. But yeah, so I just claimed, and he was at 16, and it was just that was it. There was actually no way there's no way for him to kill the Marine at that point. The Marine's got 8 toughness. There's nothing that attacks for 8. So yeah, it was pretty great.
And one of the other things you mentioned to me when telling me the story at the con was that your opponent had started a wing, which meant that you were free to wing leader the battlefield Marine because they weren't on the ground to be able to like play a fleet lieutenant to kill your battlefield Marine. So you were free and clear.
Like there is that line of like if he had ECL'd on turn 2, like a Cassian. But as soon as he didn't do that, and then it was just like we both had wing leaders, and that's actually how the first game went too. So I kind of got the sense that he was going to try to be the wing leader deck. But if he's the wing leader deck with a wing, and I'm the wing leader deck with Marine, I'm always going to be able to win with this combination, unless you see a Fang Fighter. So it was just really cool to sort of have something that was generated in the town hall really work and like impact my very first game. And like I felt like that the first game we had, the guy actually went 6-1 on the first day. But having like all that background information and all that strength of the town hall, and then like navigating a really, really close game 1 where like CJ and I talked about how good Red 3 was going to be and how like that Anthem effect was huge. Just gave me like a huge 2-0 to start the day. And yeah, it was a really good day for me. It was a great day for the team. I felt really strong with the Sabine all day. I only lost the 1 match in the mirror, and then I did lose to Nick Hansen with the Krennic deck, which in a sense ended up propelling us to maybe some better things for the next day, because we had a 30-point base.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that.
That kind of launched us in there a little bit.
Second day in a row that Krennic Green did really, really well. And then we'll talk about Bobby Colgrove in a little bit. He went 6-1 with Boba Yellow on Friday, and then had another dominant run on Saturday.
Bobby's another gamer.
Yep, and I went 5-2 with the Boba Yellow. Again, I liked it a lot. I lost to Reflex in the exact 60 card mirror, and I dropped 1 more game, and my breakers were really bad. So I ended up in 23rd, but we still see a lot of 4 mats for the team, and then a bunch of subs there.
4 mats for the team, and like of the losses, like Reflex lost to Woo, you lost to Reflex, I lost to CJ. So this was a very dominant day.
Lots of friendly fire
by the team.
And I will just say that the town hall was past my bedtime, so I tried out. I swerved to Sabine last minute, and I didn't watch the town hall because it was too late.
No, it was on YouTube.
And so I scrubbed out. I went 3-3.
Well, a lot of people watched it because I posted it on YouTube.
No, I watched some of it. I was just kind of making a joke.
So it was there for all our subs who didn't make those. And we're going to try and do them in the future.
Exactly.
Like I would have loved to have done that with the Boba Yellow as well with Reflex, and probably will in the future.
And then we'll do the live and then post it to Patreon.
Right. So here's Kira's blue-green list that Tada and Reflex also ran. This is the list that Woo has been working on forever. Really good version of blue-green control. I don't know how much you want to say about it, but like it's got the Star Destroyers, it's got Long Pike, it's got the Client. It's got the Pike Sentinel is so insane right now, especially when you can shield it. It's got ramp, it's got it all. It just has all the blue.
It's got it all, and I think that's the key. Like it. So like there's that triangle oftentimes in games, like control beats mid-range beats, aggro beats control. Like that's somewhat in our game, but it's nice to see that's not like a locked in thing. And this deck is a real example of that. Like I think it's very good against mid-range. But like we got to the point where I actually thought I was certainly not favored against Sabine, especially post-board the top targets and stuff like that. So like Sabine can certainly get it. But this deck has so many avenues to just like win and certainly takes reps to get really good with. I think when we were playing and testing beforehand, at a certain point, no one really wanted to play against Woo, because it was like we're not gonna actually play against someone that's so knowledgeable with the deck, right? Like if we play against Blue Villain Control, we'll probably be able to push some advantages in ways where he was always sort of navigating ways to win games. Like there was a game. In playtesting where Mike had like 2 Crate Dragons in hand and like a Devastator and like all this gas, and it was like, yeah, Mike's probably just needs to scoop because there's actually no way to beat this guy.
Yeah, there was no way to beat the Avenger. With a shield. So
That's
played just enough games against Woo to learn how to be annoying, and then not enough to hate myself.
Was it one of you that mentioned it over the weekend? They were like, "Yeah, I saw Wu make the same play in like 5 games straight, where he was just Kiera overwhelming barrage, something along those lines."
Yeah, I mean he got really redundant with the deck, like in general, like there's just so many different like nuances, and you guys can talk about it a bit. Those things are in the 30-point list too, but like Lom Pike with like the Sentinel and like being able to shield your Sentinel, and Lom Pike like throwing a shield on their guy that doesn't that they're going to kill anyway, or
Yeah.
all these different things, or the turns. Like there was a game I played against him where like he had a Gideon out and then played a Snoke and like wrapped my board, and then just like 4 experience tokens went everywhere. Like just all this crazy stuff. He was crushing people with Palpatine's return. Like
Yeah, Palp's return is so good.
every time I walked over, he would like. I watched one game where he got like a Maul discarded. Maybe it was playing against Han, and then the next turn he just like drew Palp's return. It's just insane value, like getting it. He actually like, got like ramped essentially.
Yeah, I'll talk about it in a couple, but like when I played against Red Ray, you guys watched that game. Actually, Justin, you probably watched like most of my games all weekend since like you were done in 2 minutes and all. I played against Control every round.
I was done very early. Yep. And you were long drawn out Control mirrors. I'd walk over, I like feel good because I like 2-0'd something and was like really happy, and I'd walk over and I'd see you playing Boba against Green Palp and just be like
grinding. Yeah.
What is going on?
The good thing, I know that we switched, but the good thing about blue-green control is like once you get the reps with the game, it really feels like you're in any match. It has the tools to do that. So like if you take the time to learn blue-green, like I think you can take it to a tournament and do well in spite of the meta. Like the guys play 2 completely different matchup spreads. It's just you have to get the reps. Like I've seen people try to pick up the deck and do kind of poorly at first. Like it is one you got to put the time in, but once you do, you are rewarded pretty heavily.
Yes.
Yeah, I also think like playing game ones over and over is just not going to help. Like I lost so many of my game ones, but my board plans against everything was so good that I went lose game 1, win both post board games 4 times on Saturday. But we'll loop back to all that kind of talk when we talk about Saturday. So we already kind of talked a bunch about your list, Justin, and what the plan was. But do you have anything to shout out specifically about your build?
Not a ton. I think Darksaber ×3 was a big one we talked about. We knew we were doing that. I did share this list to our community before the event, saying this is what I'm playing. Went back up to 3 R2s, recognizing that we really wanted to. So there's no X-Wing in this list. It really was about the ground a lot and having the extra 1-drops. I didn't play R2 a ton, but you kind of wanted to make sure I started on the ground. I played the Dodonas because I thought the mirror would be big. I went 2-1 in the mirror. But as the event went on, I sort of recognized like I was oftentimes resourcing him because Darksaber and K2 were just oftentimes better in the mirror anyway. I didn't love my sideboard, so I've definitely made some tweaks, which I've shared with our community since then, and we'll have some videos about like Sabine moving forward. But yeah, I think the list is super good. It only lost to the mirror. I lost 1 game total. No, I lost 3 games total outside of that mirror match to CJ. So I got swept by Krennic, and then I played against green 30-point Boba and lost a game there, but I did win the match. So I think the deck's still really, really well positioned.
Cool. And then this is the list that Reflex and I ran. We really loved where we got the list. We had been on Jabba's the previous day, but with all the Sabine, we decided to switch to Gamorrean guards, and they were just absolutely bonkers. We cut them the New Adventures because no one was stealing our gunship, and we kind of like didn't really care if people were stealing our gunship. Because we're just getting so far ahead with it. There were so many games where that thing did like 12 damage on its own. It's just a complete game changer for this deck. Hot Shot Blasters were an awesome include. Justin convinced me to put those in. Also, some members of the Boba Yellow thread in our community had been doing really well with Hot Shot Blaster. So that kind of put me on it. And then I put Relentless Pursuit back in, which I had cut the previous day and really missed it. So and then Reflex, he won the mat with this deck. Oh, the other thing is I lost to Richard Douglas, who went 5-2 day 1, but didn't end up winning a mat on Breakers. But he smoked me in the mirror because he had Forlom and Zuckuss in his deck, and I figured with the showing of Sabine on the first day, that more Bobas would show up on the second day, and I wanted those bounty hunters in there for those mirrors, and that's kind of what led us to putting the Gamos in the main and the bounty hunters in the sideboard. And I played Richard Douglas again on Friday, and I beat him in the mirror. In large part because of the things that he showed me were strong there.
That's great.
So that was
Friday
cool.
felt like yellow boba everywhere. I didn't play it once, thankfully, because I don't think that match is unwinnable. I think I have a good plan, but it's certainly one I don't want to see. But it felt like my final game when I played against CJ, it was like to the right was yellow versus yellow, and this is the top tables, and the left was yellow versus yellow, and it was just in the middle was CJ and I just playing.
Yeah, that's how I felt day one about Sabines.
It's really funny how that happens. Yeah, it's going to be a theme too.
Contrary to popular belief.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I don't know, and I caught a lot of smoke from Gandork about playing my deck because that's signatures or something, but I just think this deck is still really good. It's still like the aggro deck I want to be playing because it has an edge against Sabine and it has an edge against a lot of the mid-range decks. And I think the only thing that kind of slowed me down this weekend was I just played Control over and over and over. I did get a win with Final Showdown though, which is pretty savage. I was pretty excited about that.
That's like an achievement on Steam or something.
I didn't zero in on the Friday deck list archetype when you had it up, but it felt like green palp was just everywhere, and then I didn't actually. I don't think it necessarily got a lot of mats, but every time I walked by, I saw green palp.
Yeah,
I played 3 palps on Saturday.
Wu talked about this on his video, but there was tons of palp, but none of them ever won a mat. I don't think, or maybe one did on Sunday.
There was one on the first day on the list, but I'm not even
Friday.
Yeah, but they were just everywhere. I played 2 palp and 1 Iden every day. I did play. So we liked the green palp match going in, but I cut the lackeys, and I was missing the lackeys in those matchups. I ended up going 1-1 versus green palp. The one I lost, I had him at 26, and he wasn't able to stop Toro. And I had not seen a single surprise strike, shoot first, or hot shot blaster yet. So I had 8 live draws to win on the spot, and I didn't hit, and then that was it. All right, let's talk about Saturday, the day I did finally get my mat, as did Maddie. Only 2 members of the team. It was only us and Cox who played on Saturday.
Yeah, we're the only 3 members of the team that played, and we all did 5-2 or better.
CJ played.
CJ played. That's right. He played boss.
Oh, he lost his bubble match. So we were everyone of the team was live.
Everyone was live. Round. And Steve and I were live, having a fine dining meal.
You took a nice bath.
I took a bath. We had an amazing Airbnb. We had an insane Airbnb. It was an MTV Real World house. For those of you who are old enough to remember that show, just super awesome spot.
It was crazy.
So Saturday,
it was cool.
Steve and I coordinated KTOD giveaways, and then just had
interviewed Alicia and Corey from FFG, which we'll release.
Had a great
this
interview,
week.
which is dropping. Really excited, really just fun interview talking about the future of the game. We're excited about that. They were super gracious to us, and it was just a great day. But then the best part of the day was we ended up going back to the loft after our interview after lunch, and we were just following along Maddie and Mike's games. Gandork was throwing a little shade to you, Mike, but he was certainly giving you live updates. He felt he was doing his best Al Michaels.
He was. I reread. He was giving play-by-play game updates on some of my games for the Discord,
and
which
me
was
and
really
Steve
cool.
were hyped. We were just so tired because everyone knows how card weekends are, and we were just on the couch watching, and we were oh man, if Mike wins this, we have to go down to the con again.
That would have been sick.
You lost. We were definitely gonna go, and I was
yeah.
I literally go, should we leave now when you're game 3 of your 6th round? And Steve's yeah, we should. But then I was wait, if we lose, it's going to be we're literally walking into you're lost. So and you did end up losing.
I did end up losing. So glad you didn't come down.
We were super hyped for your win in game 6 because it was play by play, and then it was a wild game where your opponent was bouncing your Vaders. But then he almost pulled it off. I was what is actually happening? I think he bounced your Vader 2 or 3 times.
Yeah,
and then someone reported that you were down a game.
Yeah,
in the Discord.
Now that's what I was gonna say. If you thought I was down a game, I could understand why you on edge. But he just kept bouncing my Vaders, and I just kept playing Vaders and killing the bouncer that killed him. It did make a lot of sense, and I did win game 1 that game. So I wasn't really. For me, it was all right. I just gotta close out. It just took forever to run him out of cards. But I did lose to Boba Yellow, Zachary Cheney, one of our subs. He had Phantoms in the main deck, and they kind of blindsided me game 1. I was totally ready for him game 2 and smoked him. Game 3, I just could not draw an answer. I mulliganed for either Inferno 4 or Make an Opening. I found neither, and I didn't find either for the whole rest of the game, and it was really frustrating. And that was a matchup that I think like is really good for Kira. Obviously we had cut the Space Sentinel from the 30-point version, which we could talk about in a second. Yeah. But that certainly hurt against the Phantoms. And I lost, and it sucked because I thought I was primed to win that match. And I had like many other days, like many other games that day, I lost game 1 and was ready with my sideboard plan. But I do want to shout out the 3 Bobas in the top 3. Bobby Colgrove, who we mentioned, he went 13-1 over Friday and Saturday with his Boba Yellow list. Zach Cheney, another member of the community, and if you notice, 15 people from our Discord out of the 26 who went 5-2 better, which is like an insane day.
Yeah,
and Alex Hancock is the guy who won that massive London tournament.
Yeah.
Or Twitter ham or whatever that 5.
Yeah, and he's a 2-time maybe Final Fantasy TCG world champ, I think they said. His game against Wu is streamed. Good player. Yeah.
We both played him on Friday, correct, Matt?
He beat me. Yeah, he beat me up. I was playing Sabine on Friday. He beat me up good, but he's good, super good guy. Had a really cool list. Yeah.
He actually got a game loss against me for time, so we split. I won the match, but he was late to our game. We had
right, yeah, I saw that.
And some other Frank, Ryan, they both got mats. Dan,
let's skip over Ryan because he beat me.
Dan Blackford, Justin, our old Versus System teammate, sponsored by Rook Gaming.
Dude, that guy's a cool guy.
Chris Allen, good friend of mine in Reflexes.
For Steve and I think Maddie too. We hadn't met a lot of these people, and it was cool to see. He was chatting with Frank a bunch. I was actually really happy to not play on Saturday, so I shipped Frank my ticket. And he crushed it 6-1. Just a lot of great energy this day. People were doing well. Reflex obviously bubbled out, but he bubbled in on Thursday, so that sort of balances out sometimes. But the 6-1, Mike, that's what stands out. 6-1. You guys went 11-3 with the morning brew. Maddie
with the deck that we created on the kitchen table the night and
the morning.
The night. The
morning.
The night
and morning.
Yeah,
because we had talked about it in the.
I'll take that.
Definitely.
Yeah. It was pretty solid.
Yeah, that was old school. You guys building a deck. I was testing Bosk. I was ready to switch to Bosk.
I pulled you aside in your room, and I told you to play this.
Justin said it to me 6 times too. But in my head, as soon as you guys started building it, I was like, oh yeah, I should just do that. And I think 5 minutes before, I basically had the 2 decks built. I handed Wu. I sorted it all out. I was like, Wu, count that. If it's 47, I'm good to go. And he's like, it's 47. I grabbed 3 Charlestons from someone. I have CJ's Hyper Charlestons. Those are mine now. Thanks, CJ.
Thanks for your support. Follow and sub.
And then threw the sideboard together and bounced to the con, and that was it. But this is the so I think Sussy teamed with Bobby, and this is their list that they ran. And so this is the list that they got from Dark, who ran it a couple weeks ago, basically, there's a thread in our Discord. We talked about it on the last podcast, I think. This is the list that's kind of been born out of that. And they ran it to great success this weekend.
Yeah, dude,
they crushed it. That's the sick thing about the Discord. And I was telling the guys at the meetup, you guys come together in your own groups and freaking make great decks, and we all work together. There's a lot of good people in there, and it's just cool to see.
No, this deck's sharp. The 2 Bobas is a little eyebrow raiser, but I mean this deck is sharp. It's clean. It's got the Bash Brothers, Zuckus and Forlom.
Yeah, they just want to be a little bit more all in on Toro, and then using Boba more as utility. Do I need to 6 something, or do I need to 8 or 9 something?
I mean, the Toro's been a 2 of those numbers.
Toro's kind of cracked.
So they probably just saw that he was cracked. Bodie in the board, something I've been advocating for. I love this deck. I think it's really good.
Yeah, I still love Bodie main, but I get it.
I will say,
jammed up.
A good pilot, and you know what? I made that point about blue green. I think double yellow is the same way. We're seeing very good players play double yellow in either one, the Han or the Boba, and do well. There are these decks that once you kind of get the handle of them, you can play the game. And I feel sometimes people in deck selection, I'm going to use myself as an example. I picked Sabine not the most comfort I had, but I didn't feel like I could play the game, and I kept wishing that I just stuck with the Kira. And then when we made that 30-point base, like if you are a good player and you put in the time and you play a deck that lets you play the game, you can do very well. And then finding edges like they did with this list is also
and you can that's a great point. You can see it by like the numbers too. Like Woo's list, 1 takedown. You guys had 1 takedown. This list was like 1 shoot first, and you see the 2 Boba Fett's, and you see like the 1, syndicate lackeys to have access to it. Like you just sort of understand like the nuances of your lists and how like those ones probably aren't even ones. They're just like actually the 13th card in a card that people like grouped together. You know what I mean? Is doing similar things. And they wanted a little bit more margins there. So this list looks great, and I agree, Maddie. Like the more you can kind of play, and then you'll end up like, oh, you know what? I kept drawing too many of this card. Let me slim it down and stuff like that. Like you'll end up getting better at the game.
Exactly.
Yeah, worst card in here, Chopper Base. That's trash. Can't play that.
Not good.
Zach Cheney is the guy who beat me. This is his list. I wanted to include it because he had some wild bounty hunter plays, bounty hunter guild, ruthless assassin, and then of course the lurking TIE Phantom that I mentioned earlier.
Even more
That's
all
hot.
on Toro.
Yeah.
This is like the full Toro combo.
Yeah,
right?
3 relentless pursuit also, like because he has all bounty hunters.
Yeah, shout out to Zach. He was looking for a ticket like Friday night in Discord, and I'm glad he got one. And crushed. Good job, buddy.
Yeah, GG's. And then this is the list that me and Maddie ran. So we took the idea that the blue-green Krennic had been doing really well on Thursday and Friday, and we as a team think that Kira is like strictly superior to Krennic in almost every matchup, even the aggro ones. So what we did was we built a more blue-focused, Childson-focused blue-green control that used top targets in the sideboard to sort of just like make the aggro deck unwinnable. I played Sabine twice, and both games I won with like 0 health on my base.
Yeah.
Did you play green or yellow?
I played 1 green and actually maybe I only played 1 green.
Okay.
I played against the Krennic on Friday, and that was like it wasn't even close. It was the same vibes, and then that was one of the Maddie's been talking about Kira for a while, but one of the catalysts of like, what if we did that list that was like a Childston list? Because I came out being like, I felt pretty good against Wu, like 50-50 against Wu, right? But like if someone else was playing that list, I'd feel a little ahead. And I felt like if I played that matchup against Krennic like 8 times, I'd win once. And a lot of it was Childston, so this is sort of where that started getting bred. Like, let's build a Childston 30-point. You'll improve your margins against Sabine a ton.
Like, that conversation came up. I remember playing like blue-green 30-pace Iden at the end of set 1, being like, I think there's something here. Then for you to see that, we had Wu's kind of core, you, me, and Wu in front of the kitchen table, shuffling cards around, talking about like what gave you problems, what worked for him today, kind of like what I felt about what I wanted out of a deck. And like, that was like an all-time moment for me that I won't forget. Like when we made that deck, I knew that I had to play, and I knew I was going to do well.
There were so many cool things too. Like this doesn't have that much for space, and obviously we'd said like the Phantom was an issue, but we were like, let's play a Dooku because he actually kills a lot of the space.
Yep.
We had said like
the entrench.
Originally it was the entrench, and then there was the resupply on the board was originally the vigilance, but we were talking about how because we're going Childston on turn 4 more, that we're not actually like needing to ramp as much, which means that we'll actually want to just play a 6-drop on the 6th turn and maybe have to like buy some life back. So it was like all these really, really cool conversations.
Yeah, there was like there was like the fork in the road of like, if I'm ramping, I'm doing this. If I'm not, I'm doing this way to maximize my Childston. If they go space, I have these removal cards for it.
Granted, I wish I listened to those conversations because I just like drew a hand. I was like, oh, I'll just Pike Sentinel, and the next turn I'll entrenched and shield him.
Well,
that seems good.
You went 6-1, I went 5-2. Although,
good to me.
Yeah,
no, for sure. It's just like it was fun. Someone played a
too.
Sabine against me. In my Sabine match, he led with Sabine, and I was like, oh, I'll just put top target on the Sabine and then kill it eventually.
Yeah.
Instead of playing my Pike Sentinel turn 1.
Top target was so insane. It's one of those cards you kind of have to set up ahead of time. Like, I played Mike from Unplayable in the last round, and he was on Bosk. ECL, and I had to top target a Kylo's tie so that in 2 turns I could Snoke and like heal back and then win the game. And that's exactly what I did. So that was
nice.
Shout out to Mike. That was a great match. Slugfest best of 3, and he's a cool bro. So that was fun. But yeah, I think this deck is gas.
All-star for me was the Palps Return. I don't know if you had a lot of Palps Return games, but like I played against Red Ray the first round, and he was just pillage on 4 every game, and I like made sure I ramped, and then games 2 and 3 I just Palps Return on turn 4, and one game got back Snoke, which was just like absolute game ender, and the other one got back I think it was a Vader or a Maul, and it was just completely stupid. And then it also helped me beat the red Palpatine that you had lost to earlier. Thankfully, you gave me the heads up that Palps Return your Avenger does 15. So what I did was I like kind of played my whole game plan around that. One game I had to fight through 4 Crate Dragons, which was kind of insane. So and then game 3, because of that, I knew I had to keep damage off. So one time he overwhelming barraged a scanning officer, and I used a Power of the Dark Side on it because I was like, I have to preserve life, because I knew at some point I might have to Palps Return Avenger, and that's how I ended up winning the game, was taking 15 off the Palps Return to go to 25.
And unfortunately,
win.
when I did that play, it lost me the game. But so me and Rick had a great best of 3. I think I should have had him in the 3rd game. I got a little distracted and I couldn't lock back in. And I had an easy way to do it, this Crate Dragon, but I was like, I'll just take 6 from the Palp Return. I'll get ahead. And it was bad. But anyway, he did great match. When we talked about matchup variants, I played against like 4 Palps, and I was supposed to be there to beat up on the Boba yellows that we thought we'd see after the Sabines. So it just goes to show you that like sometimes you're going to get a rough draw, but if like my earlier point, like if you find these decks that you're good with and can let you play the game, I was able to still top 16, even though I probably got the worst matchup. Like if I saw that matchup spread at the start of the day, I probably would have dropped and team drafted and eaten tacos all day. But, I grinded it out and got there.
All right. So we didn't get a picture of everyone with the mats. We did get this picture after Friday. But as a team, we got 8 mats, 10 out of 15 performances that were 5-2 or better. We had 2 out of 3 days we got 16th place, which like go tiebreakers on the bubble. Yeah. And then just like as we mentioned earlier, like several friendly fire losses throughout the event. We just could not dodge each other. Hold it up a little higher, Justin. There you go.
Oh yeah.
The finalizer mat is actually insane. I didn't look at it really closely until I got one. But man, is the colors really on that, and even the armor one, the colors just pop. They made sure the reds were red and the blues were blue.
They did a good job.
Yeah, it's really great. It's great to see that card that art will get shown.
And Steve finally has a mat. He's got the armor mat. He doesn't have to play matless anymore.
I do. That's true. I just gotta remember to bring it.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you my mat tube when I get my new one.
Yeah, stay tuned for how we're gonna do the giveaway, because this armor mat is also insane.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Yep. So I made a little community post thanking everybody. So there's another close up of the 2 mats.
It was cool to be able to get people their shirt and the coin. Like a lot of people came up to me like a little later after they got the stuff and they had examined the coin, and they were like, I thought the coin was cool. And then I like really looked at it and I was like, holy smokes.
Yeah. The coin's actually insane. Every single person thought that the coin was way better than even imaginable.
Yeah,
there was tons of. I mean, there's like the official KTOD swag of like the T-shirt and the coin, and then like Sim had all those like.
Oh yeah! Shout out to Sim.
T-shirts that you're wearing right now. You have one of the older versions there that has the lineup wrong. There's the new one,
revised edition.
The revised edition with
certified numpty
new
stickers.
Magneto. There's the little hologram KTOD sticker.
Yeah, you
hand cut. We've got
the album. He actually printed CDs of the AI album he made.
Yeah,
Shuffled Fate.
It's also like 1994. So like here's my mixtape.
We were listening to the like
T-shirts. There's a picture of Mike and Sim where Sim's wearing the Mike face shirt.
I know. I should have put that on the slideshow.
Your face is real life. Like it's so good.
Yeah, you can see it. You can see it in one of these pictures. I thought he's wearing. No, maybe I cut
Leo,
that
my
picture.
doppelganger. The coolest thing too was like after like Wu won his event or someone did well, we like went back to the apartment and like played their song from the album. That was super cool. I remember blasting the Wu song after he went undefeated. Like, that was awesome.
And then
we had a great game.
Yeah, and so like this is a mix of like pictures from the con and pictures from the hangout. We brought everyone. Well, we invited everyone in the KTOD Discord and their friends. Like we weren't restrictive.
Right.
Like people were there.
We weren't carding. We weren't looking for numbers cards.
Yeah. Jack from freaking Golden Dice was like, "Can I bring my friends?" I was like, "Of course you can bring those guys that I've known for 8 years. You can bring the whole team, guy." We bought
There were people. There were people that I'd known for 5 minutes where I was like, "No, you're on our tab."
Yeah,
like,
we opened a tab. We got everyone a drink. We got some snacks. We hung out. It was a great. They had a
awesome.
photo booth.
And like you'd think with that many people there'd be some issues, but there wasn't. The bartenders loved us.
Yeah, and that's
shout out to Frank for buying 6 bottles of champagne.
Oh yeah, he did a champagne toast.
Giant toast.
Dude,
that was so fun.
Frank's a real one, man.
Good guy. Frank and his wife were lovely.
Yep.
Yeah, we did an awesome McClunky toast. We all said McClunky.
I don't know where that came from.
McClunky. That's like, what else are you gonna say to celebrate Star Wars? I was gonna give a speech, but then I just said McClunky.
There you go.
But we had a great time at the hangout, and just the con in general, and just seeing everyone and hanging out with everyone was fantastic.
Yeah, testament to how many everyone who joined up and embraced the community and like made it what it is are just incredible.
Oh yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like we didn't have any problems at the hangout with like 60, 70 people hanging out, like having adult beverages, and also we have over 1,000, almost like 1,050 people in our Discord. And there's never problems. Ever.
Yeah, we haven't had
little toxicity. It's so great.
The closest we got today was barbecue. They're the regional barbecue discussion.
There was some arguments about
People
barbecue.
only talk about barbecue.
Like New York barbecue is the best. That threw me for a loop. But
he just said there's good places there.
Look, there's good barbecue everywhere, and like the only reason people talk about those things is to tell you why you're wrong and they're right, which is like why I don't even engage.
But it was
All right, when we last did this podcast, we had 899 subscribers, and we hit 1,000 subs before Gen Con, which is absolutely insane.
Cool.
Because we wanted to talk a lot about Gen Con. I only have 2 Patreon questions today, but we thought they were really good ones. The first one comes from the K Mitch, who's been doing the spreadsheet that keeps track of like all the big events and the meta analysis. So shout out to the K Mitch. Can you share some insight into how your team operates behind the scenes? How often you guys jam games against each other in a given week? It seems like you're all working on tuning your pet decks projects in a given time, but does the team overall work on one deck to prepare for a big competitive event, like when we did Boba Green for the Orlando 5K? And then also in the masterclass video with Loopy, Reflex mentions he doesn't have a lot of time to get reps, but the team did an awesome job getting him up to speed. Do you keep notes, play lines, use data, statistics, or what do you do?
So I think
that's a great question.
It's a great question. There's a lot of layers there. I can start on it. I think a lot of it is public. Like for instance, CJ. I don't think CJ would have played Sabine if he didn't do the town hall, because he was loving the boss list, which he played the second day. But I think the games and chatting about Sabine kind of opened his eyes to how strong it was again. I think it's a lot of like. I'll tell you what it's not. It's not a huddle behind like a closed door where we're working on like a broken deck. It's not that. I think it's a lot of people saying, hey, let's try this out. And let's try this out. And hey, it's winning. And then you kind of get some traction. Like right now, currently, there's a Yellow Han that was played on Saturday. It's a little more aggressive than the other Yellow Hans. And I was like, yeah, I think this deck looks good. I want to try it out. And we're kind of like, and then, now CJ's playing it this morning, and we'll bring those results back to the community. So it's not sort of some secret laboratory. And it's also not like a science and math laboratory where we're saying it's a 62% win rate versus this. Right. We don't do stuff like that. We're trying to be better at like sharing links to decks so that we can change things and people can like play with those changes. But I think like everyone, it's hard to keep up on everything. And you just try new ideas and you try things. And like for instance, the snapshot blasters and Jabba that I was playing it in testing, and I said it to Mike, like this kind of closes this really gets a little bit more tempo. You can push the end game that we can't always get to. I like it, and then you liked it, and you got your games. So it's sort of stepping stones and bridges between ideas. That's where I would say.
Yeah, and we're definitely still evolving our process. Like, there's definitely a lot of fact-finding missions that we go out and gather our own info, and we're working at getting better about bringing it back to the group and getting everyone to download what we have, like collectively, because sometimes it is hard as a team to get everyone on the same wavelength. So, being able to take good notes or find a way to replicate lines or playtesting patterns that you find and share them with the group, I think are really important.
I think the lines part is the most important one and the one I focus on the most. And I think like we have a lot of room to grow in terms of communication about those lines. But, you can look at a deck list all you want. And that's kind of what I always like roll my eyes at when people are like, I want to see this list. This list exists. I need to see it. Someone played this event and went 2-1. I need to know what that list is. Like all I care about is like, did you figure out a line for a specific matchup that probably or hopefully works? I could care less about a list. Tell me what line I need to take, so when I see the list, I understand why things are there. So, like, that's my biggest thing. Like, and some of that is just happens in the games. Like, I play Test against Wu, and he's shielding Avenger, and I'm like, okay, I don't play blue, so I can't deal with shielded Avenger. I lose. Or like how ham you can go on Long Pike to like infinitely shield, and how like shielding your guy with Kira auto heals him from the damage later when you flip her. So like not flipping her right away because you can just infinitely shield and damage your guys until you get to a point where like flipping her now benefits your whole game plan and not just the small combat mechanics. So like for me, it's all about lines and figuring out the lines. The list could be anything.
And the decision tree we identified with the Chilton earlier that we didn't get that downloaded to Mike, but he did better. So
whatever. I played a 6-6 and shielded it. That seemed pretty good.
Yeah.
All right.
Seems good.
Anything to add on the team dynamic, Steve?
No, I think you guys kind of nailed it on the head. At least for me personally, since I don't play as much Construct as you guys, over the weekend I kind of just took my own little brew in Mono Blue Ray. And, it did surprisingly pretty well. I started off 3-0, but then I started playing like a donkey and ended up going 4-3. But there's some interesting stuff there. Like you were talking earlier about like the power of Smuggle. And I literally decked 2 Emperor decks game 1 without even really playing Vigilance just because they ran out of gas. And I just kept smuggling Sugi and Chewy all game long. So I definitely think there's possibly something there. And maybe that's something that should inevitably get worked into discussions. So it kind of gives you the like compare and contrast. Like these guys fine-tuned this deck on the Kira and took it to 2 top 8 successes on the final day, whereas I kind of just took my own thing, did my own thing, and didn't get there. But perhaps if I had ran that same deck list through the gauntlet like you guys did and the team and tweaked it, then maybe I could have gotten there. So it definitely gives you like 2 opposite styles, and you obviously see which is the better one and where you can actually take things when you work together as a team and get everything you can get out of our community.
Yeah, and also like that speaks like now I'm thinking like, oh, maybe Blu-ray is like an actual like you can sideboard into the mill plan against the control decks, and you can do things like sideboard out things that you don't want against them, and like sideboard in what is the red card that draws to, and just pay the 5 to burn them.
Yeah,
I had no sideboard essentially for the tournament, and I think I won the majority of my game ones. The only game one I the only game one I might have lost was against that mono yellow Bobby Colgrove because I just couldn't deal with Zuckus and Forlom.
Yeah,
because all my guys were Sentinels basically.
Right.
But I think other than that, I won all my game ones. But not having a real sideboard, the matches I lost were all like games 2 and game 3.
Gotcha.
Well, right after this call, we'll have our team Blu-ray thread. One quick point I wanted to make about like process, like cell phones today are correct. Buy a tripod and record your testing games with your friends. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I think that's a big help.
Yep.
All right, competitive online play. We got to be careful about how we answer this, guys. But we got a couple questions. Yeah, well, I think it's interesting because there's webcam, so like there's that.
Oh, right.
I've got a couple questions for you about competitive online play. We'd appreciate honest answers. How much do you pay attention to online tournament results deck lists? What do you look forward when you do? And some of you used to partake in competitive online play. Why did you stop? And what would it take to get you back in? I want to answer number 2 first before we open it up. But like when we partnered with FFG, using unofficial online programs to play the game is not something we're allowed to talk about. So that's the main reason why. But there are webcam leagues, and like, this started over COVID, but even big games have officially sanctioned webcam leagues or tournaments. And I think like for us, being competitive minded and affiliated with FFG through partnership means that like when things are unofficial, we are less likely to take a look at them. If there were an official online program, I think that would be something that would lead us into getting into that. I don't particularly like webcam, but I wouldn't be against it But I thought number one was really the question that's kind of interesting is like, do you pay attention to online stuff or do you not? And like, what do you look for?
So it's interesting. Like I just tutored a kid in stats, and we were looking at like sampling and like what's correct and stuff. And there was a problem that says, hey, you're trying to get information about like a town. You go to a mall to ask people questions about the town. Is it a good sample? We were talking about that problem. Like it's not a good sample because you're not actually surveying people in the town. You're surveying mall goers in the town. So I think this is similar with playing online. Like if you want to get a good sense, if it's too different, like if online play is different than like real life play, then you're not sampling what you want to do because the majority of the big tournaments we're going to are real tournaments. There's no official online right now for like FFG games, where something like Magic Online would have that, right? Like they're connected. So I think right now they're sort of too different. It would actually be great if these things got closer together, where online play sort of mirrored regular play a little more. And I think some of the stuff probably is, but I know that some of the online's pretty far apart just in terms of what people are playing. You look at like the meta breakdown of Gen Con versus like what people might be playing elsewhere.
What number podcast is this, guys?
14.
14, so 28 weeks. I said it 28 weeks ago, and I'll say it again. I pay no attention to online tournaments. It's all a bunch of numpties just playing with themselves.
All right, good. I'm glad you adjusted that quote. I was worried. I was ready to get the bleep button going. For me, I liked and Maddie, maybe this will answer your question about why I included this, but like I like to see who's playing. I like to see what they're playing because I know which lists are getting copied. And when I know which lists are going to get copied, it allows me to prepare for the meta of a bunch of people copying online deck lists. And I think we saw that in some of our Sabine testing in the week leading up to Gen Con, that a certain list was being copied over and over, and it wasn't good. And it wasn't actually leading to good testing on us. But it did lead to us kind of figuring out that, like, if we saw certain cards, we knew what list we were facing and, like, what kind of lines we could expect out of that list. Whereas, like, if we were facing, like, the list that Justin and CJ developed, we knew it was, like, someone in the Discord who knew all the stuff, and we would have to prepare for it differently. So I like to look at that stuff because I like to know what's out there and what people are going to play and what people are going to copy. And if it's a deck made by someone who's being copied blindly, that's important to me.
Yeah, I think the more the game grows too, right? Like the more the game grows, the more experience people have online or not. And then when you're playing just against someone, it's kind of like going to a local now, right? Like you could go to someone, they're super inexperienced, you're kind of helping them with the way the game works, right? It's community building. Well, online, it's not really that fun to do that. But your data sets aren't helpful. But as the game grows and you have these like larger tournaments and stuff, and people get more experienced with it, then if you play someone online, you could lose that game, right? Like it's not like just like, oh yeah, I'm basically just dominating because they don't know what they're doing and I do.
Yeah. Anything else?
No. Shout out to Rebel Trader. I think he's a cool dude. I pay almost zero attention to anything online for the reasons everyone stated. It is cool to see like, oh, this content creator put out this deck. Like people might be on it. I should be aware of that. But other than that, put it on the felt, baby.
Put it on the felt. All right. Well, we came in at
Can you use this online? Can you? No,
you can't do that. I actually played on that on Saturday, and it was sick. I got. Yeah.
When I do my webcam, I can do webcam random aloud. I'll probably use the armor.
Yeah, it was
definitely using the armor.
Yeah, it was great. Cool. Well, we hit just an hour, which is like the perfect time for podcast. Maybe hour 15, but we, I think we covered everything we wanted to about Gen Con. I did want to shout out Symbiote again for being like an amazing friend and doing all this stuff for our community. He made so many stickers, shirts. I want to shout out Biggie for giving us rides and helping with logistics, letting me ship shirts to him. He's going to ship shirts back to me. We did give him all our extra booze, which was
There's 6 packs in there that are mine because I'm digging for a showcase.
No, I have your 6 packs.
Oh, cool. Okay, never mind.
Mike's like, I have them, and there. Guess what? There's no showcase.
The other night you were saying you didn't even want the packs.
Well, I don't remember that, so it doesn't count.
Hey, did you find your Metal Fab tokens at home?
Yeah, I set them aside before the trip.
Okay. You see them?
I mean, I don't see them right now, but I know for 100% I set them aside.
Okay. Well, I think 100% that the ones in the blue thing were yours. But stay tuned for 2 weeks from now, and we'll see who was right.
And we'll solve the mystery.
All right. Well, thanks for hanging out. Make sure you follow us for the swag bag giveaway And for all other things, competitive Star Wars Unlimited. GG's.
Oh yeah, GG's, boys.
We should just leave them like that for the rest of the pod.
We should do like a deleted scene on this. Would be great.
Yeah.
KTOD bloopers.
Okay.
Oh, you're back. He's back, baby. It was Maddie. It was a great picture. It was like you laughing with the mustache, like you literally looked like Mario.
Yeah.